Hello, my name is Matthew. I'm a strategic systems consultant here at Quest. And in this video, I'd like to talk about GPOADmin's Watcher service. So the Watcher service is an interesting component of GPOADmin, and it's pretty unique to how GPOADmin does what it does. Essentially, the Watcher service is an independent piece of software that continuously pulls Active Directory using the dirsync method to look for changes to version-controlled objects that take place outside of GPOADmin so that they can be marked as non-compliant within GPOADmin. The idea behind this is we always want GPOADmin to understand the true status of the objects that it's working with. So I'm going to step through a quick scenario here that might make this a little bit more apparent. So within GPOADmin, I have a GPO here called MV Server GPO. And what I'm going to do is, as a domain admin, I'm going to go and edit this directly using GPMC. So I'm going to kind of circumvent the process that I've set up using GPOADmin. Right-click on this, choose Edit. We get our familiar GP Edit, and I'm editing that policy directly. We'll expand policies here, and I'm just going to make a random change to it. Wait as it enumerates all the server-side policy definitions. All 3,644 settings. And we'll just make a random change here. Action on startup, disabled. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and close here. Now, of course, because I've edited this directly, I've now immediately made a change to that object. So in the background, every period of time, GPOADmin is going to look at Active Directory and it's going to read through a list of Active Directory changes for classes that GPOADmin is interested in. Those include, of course, GPOs. They also include scopes of management, OUs, domain objects, and the like. And then when it sees those object changes, it's going to look inside GPOADmin and see, A, is that a version-controlled object? And B, is there a corresponding change within GPOADmin? Now, this is pretty much invisible. The Watcher service doesn't have a UI or anything like that. We're going to look at how we can kind of look at what's happening under the covers, but you'll see that every, kind of a period of time it checks. And as you can see, what's happened now is that it has seen that change, recognized that there wasn't a corresponding change within GPOADmin, and put it in a specific state of compliance called non-compliant. And furthermore, non-compliant kind of has sort of substatus as well. It has unauthorized modification, which is what this was. It also has things like deleted or a couple of others, but the most common to see is unauthorized modification. You'll also notice that the version number incremented. So where it was 29.0, it now reads 29.1. When GPOADmin sees an unauthorized modification through the Watcher service, it automatically creates a special version of that. You can see here that the account that created it was the service account itself that is referring to that unauthorized modification. So we have the actual change captured within GPOADmin. We still have to deal with the state though. When it is non-compliant, we can't do our usual activities with it. Instead, we need to bring that back into compliance before we can, do our kind of traditional management. So you'll notice when I right-click on this, at the very top of the list, there are two new options, Rollback and Incorporate Live. They do exactly what they sound like. Rollback will take what is live in Active Directory and overwrite that with the latest version that GPOADmin has, the latest deployed version. So basically what it would do is roll it back to the state it was in at version 29. If I incorporate live, what we're saying is like, hey, it may not have been the right process, but the change itself was valid. So what we can do is we can say, all right, well, we're going to take the change in Active Directory. We're going to create a version 30 that incorporates those changes within GPOADmin. Regardless of what we do here, we're going to bring GPOADmin and Active Directory back into sync. Now, if there's questions about like what exactly was that change, of course, we can go to Show History. We can reverse sort so it makes sense, and control click on each of these, right click and choose differences, and it will tell us pretty explicitly what in the world changed. As you can see here, if we scroll down, we can see that setting that we added is now listed there. Furthermore, it's a very common thing to do to subscribe to notifications on the Watcher service. So if we go here to notifications, you can see that there are two sets of notifications that have to do with this. There's compliance action, which notifies you when an administrator, either incorporates live or rolls back. And there's also notification on unauthorized modification. And if we take a look in Outlook, we'll see what that email actually looks like. There's also one other option with what to do with unauthorized modifications. If we take a look at a policy object, or more commonly a container, you'll notice here there's a tab called remediation. If you click on remediation, you can see that we can automate. You can see that we can automate what we want to have happen in the case that there's an unauthorized modification. So if it's modified or deleted, we can see what we want to do. I rarely see this implemented. Most folks want to want to make that decision. It should be a relatively uncommon thing to have happen. But this option is there for kind of specific circumstances if you wish to automate that. Take a look in the inbox. You can see what the unauthorized modification notification looks like here. You'll notice that it includes a difference report so that when you're notified of, hey, there's been an unauthorized modification, you know what that modification is right from your email. I'm going to go ahead and bring this back into compliance, right-clicking on it and choosing Incorporate Live. This is going to create version 30, and at that point, the object will be back in compliance. So that's really how the Watcher service works. This is it should not be confused with an auditing system. You'll notice at no point did it know that my domain admin account had actually modified that policy. You want to use something like Change Auditor for that can actually look at the individual person making the change. But ultimately, it is a great way of making sure that the actual policy is being followed, the actual utilization of GPOADmin. And specifically, as we all know, group policy objects will always have the ability for a domain admin or enterprise admin to be able to work with them. If we take a look at delegation on this policy, we can see that domain admins and enterprise admins are always going to be able to do that. And even if you removed these, which isn't recommended by Microsoft, enterprise admins, domain admins could always just take ownership and add themselves back in. So ultimately, we really do have to deal with these sort of corner cases, the ability to sort of go around a tool like GPOADmin. We need to be able to deal with that head on. All right, two last couple quick things. I mentioned that there's no UI for the Watcher service. Everything about the Watcher service is either analyzed, it either shows up within the GPOADmin client like we saw, or you can see information on it within the event log on the GPOADmin server, whatever is running the Watcher service. Click refresh here. You can see that the event IDs you'll be looking for are 1050s. I have this filtered on 1050s, and you'll notice here that the change that the Watcher service saw was logged here. the MV server GPO in this Titan corp has been modified outside of the version control and has been flagged as non-compliant. If ever you have issues with the watcher service, you don't think that it's properly flagging unauthorized modifications, the place to look for that is here in the watcher service. And it's usually pretty explicit around, either not having the appropriate access or some other thing that's tripping it up. Lastly, there are a few options when it comes to configuring the watcher service, and those are set through the registry. So if you look under HQ local machine, software, Quest, GPOADmin, watcher config, you'll notice here in this environment that I have 3 settings set. Exclude SOM security from hash. This is an interesting one because what this tells GPOADmin is that, hey, even if, like, for instance, on registered object, if the permissions change, we don't really care about that. That is kind of a normal thing to have happen in Active Directory. We really only care about GP link changes. So this basically says just ignore that particular change. Is something I recommend you set up. Interval is how we control how often the watcher service checks. You can see this is set for every 45 seconds. And server name rarely needs to be set here, but this is basically an override to make sure that the watcher is talking to the right service. This can sometimes come into play if you have multiple GPOADmin instances or you're migrating between instances or something of that sort. But yeah, that is the watcher service kind of in a nutshell. Thank you.